Welcome back. You're with a special edition of The Pulse. The Maluti A Phofung Municipality has been a reflection of the political turmoil which has plagued the province of the Free State in recent times. Local government elections expert Pascal Moloi joins us now with more. Pascal, good evening, and thanks very much indeed to come in. I really do appreciate it. Let's start with the trends, and then I would like to ask you just to explain some of the bigger dynamics. So this was a safe council for the ANC for a very long time. There seemed to be a sort of internal rebellion. Some of the councillors, if I recall, the trigger was they refused to vote in favour of a mayor. Then there was a rebellion. They were kicked out of the ANC. That seemed to really hurt the party.
Thanks for having me, Stephen, and good evening to your viewers. Yes, I mean, the trends are quite obvious. I mean, from maybe let's just go back to the 2014 elections, where the ANC had about 81% of the vote, and the nearest would be the EFF and the GA at about 7 or 8% each. And then the rest is just smaller parties, the Kwankwetle and others, with 1% of votes there and there. Then came the elections in 2019, and there was a drop in the ANC vote from 81% to about 67%, with the EFF being the biggest winner, moving from about 7% to 12%. Then with the GA, I think still hovering or remain maybe a 1% increase from 7 to 8%. But still the same trends with the smaller parties, each getting about 1% or so, 3 seats here, 3 seats there. The council is about 36 wards, 30 wards, and I don't know why, but 29 PR seats, which makes it a council of about 59. As we sit at the moment, I think the ANC still sits with about 30 of those seats, and the rest shared between the different parties. A significant shift happened in 2019, where, as you say, that there was rumblings within the ruling party, and 16 members of the ruling party decided to go out. Most of them were ward councillors, and they contested. Obviously, when a ward councillor resigns, there's a vacancy and there has to be a by-election. So there were 16 by-elections, and 10 of those wards won by the independents who had left the ANC. And they campaigned under the banner calling themselves MAP, which is Maluti A Phofung 16. And what's interesting with the elections going forward now, it seems like the MAP group has now formed themselves into some form of a formal, I wouldn't say political party, but they're campaigning as MAP 16, and they're now contesting all the 30 wards, which is going to bring a very interesting dynamic in the elections, in the coming elections on the 1st of November.
I mean, in a way, it's sort of, when this happens and it's a ward councillor that rebels against their party, it becomes the ward councillor's personal popularity against that of a governing party, in this case the ANC. So, I mean, they must have been quite popular to do as well as they did so quickly.
Well, it looks like they were popular. If you look at them, they're seasoned, I would say seasoned councillors. They've been in the system for some time, so they must have some popularity, particularly in the Kwakwa area. You should remember that Maluti A Phofung is a municipality born out of what was the old Bantustan called Kwakwa, and the old Harrismith largely. Okay. And there are dynamics there. Some of them ethnic, I would say, that mostly people in Harrismith would see themselves as Zulu-speaking people, and the Kwakwa people being Sotho-speaking people. And it has played itself out over the years. The levels of service delivery are quite different. I mean, there's service delivery problems across, largely electricity now, with Eskom having threatened to shut down. In fact, I think there's a trend now that during the day, when factories and firms are busy, there's electricity, and in the evenings, there are cut-offs.
Sure.
And there are huge debts owed to Eskom. Then there's water. I mean, the water issues have been well documented. I think the former Minister Sisulu has been in and out of Maluti A Phofung, and housing, and those issues are always there. But sometimes I think they are exaggerated by these divides between the old and the new Maluti A Phofung being made up of these two large districts.
I mean, it's interesting. If you look for places in South Africa with the worst service delivery, you're often looking at a form of Bantustan, particularly the Eastern Cape's a good example. So, I mean, you see that here. Is that why, in your view, the service delivery has been so bad? I mean, we've had so many people in Maluti A Phofung seem so angry at a lack of service delivery. Is it because of that contestation? Is it because of what's happened within the ANC in this rebellion? Are there other factors?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's because of that. I think that makes it worse. But your service delivery problems are basically people not doing their jobs and either bad administration or bad governance. In this case, I think there were governance issues, right from the office of the mayor. They've not had a formal city manager for some time. They've been under administration. There've been 2 administrators. I think they're still under administration at the moment, although it doesn't seem to be a functioning administrator at the moment. So it's administrative issues, it's political issues and all that impact on service delivery. But then it gets confused and gets conflated by the issues around regionalism and ethnism.
You would think that in this situation, the opposition parties, the EFF, the DA, the new 16 party would do really well. The ANC sending some of its top resources, I mean, some of its top names to that area to campaign really hard. I mean, that's possibly an indication that they're a bit nervous. What are you expecting to happen? The ANC going to keep it?
Look, no one less than the president himself has been to Maluti A Phofung recently. I think it's going to be hung. I suspect there will be a coalition government there. I suspect the MAP guys will do fairly well. The EFF is showing a big push. And for the first time, I think we've seen the IFP campaigning in the Free State generally, but also I think making a turn in Maluti A Phofung. And I'm not surprised. I think they're also playing on that sentiment, that the Harry Smith sentiment that I spoke about earlier. So I think there'll be much more contestation. The DA is obviously strong in the suburban areas of Harry Smith. I predict probably a decline in the ANC numbers, but whether it will be under 50% for them to rule outright, or whether it will be under 49% and force them to go into coalitions with MAP maybe, because those are traditionally old ANC people. And depending, I think, on who the ANC puts up as candidates, that might be seen as acceptable to communities and acceptable maybe to the MAP 16 guys. So there's probably going to be maybe some talk, some coalition between the ANC and MAP.
Pascal Moloi, thanks very much indeed. Really do appreciate it.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
As you can hear, an expert on local government elections.